Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. I'm Pinky Webb. Today on the program, shaping the country's course in the next 6 years. President Bongbong Marcos to present his plans in his first State of the Nation address. What pressing concerns need utmost attention? Former Senator Franklin Drilon joins us live. And later, are we nearing the COVID-19 pandemic endgame despite the uptick in infections? Opta research fellow Guido David tells us more later in the program. Major challenges hound the administration of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Rising consumer prices, COVID-19 pandemic, mounting debt, unemployment, poverty, and hunger. As he faces the nation to deliver his first SONA, what will be his priorities and how does he plan to solve the country's problems? Let's go straight to the source of the story. We have former Senator Franklin Drilon. Senator, it's good to see you again from your vacation. Welcome back to The Source.
Thank you, Pinky, for having me again, even if I'm a retired senator. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. A seasoned politician as you are, President Bongbong Marcos will be having his first State of the Nation address on Monday. And even if you're retired, I believe and I'm sure you're still very much in tune with the current issues. Let's begin with this, Senator. What to you is our current State of the Nation?
Well, it cannot be denied we are facing an economic crisis. And that is what President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. should address, the economy. Because right now, we have in June's inflation rate of 6.1%. That's the highest in the last 3 years. And this means that the rising prices is an issue which must be addressed. And here, we need the political will and the political capital of President Marcos, and we hope that he will use this to address this very serious issue. We have, because of inflation, there are many people, many of our countrymen are living below the poverty line, and this is because of our difficult economic situation. The data of the Philippine Statistics Authority would indicate that about 4.7 million Filipino families live below the poverty line, or 27 or 23. 24% of our population is living below the poverty line. In other words, we have something like 26 million of our Filipinos living below the poverty line, whose income is even below the threshold income of 12,000 pesos per month for a family of 5. So this is a very serious issue. And of course, this is aggravated. Our issue, our problem on the prices is aggravated by the very heavy borrowings that the previous administration had to resort to, given the pandemic that we went through. And therefore, this reduces the fiscal space in the budget for government programs, because we have to pay interest and the debts. The Philippine outstanding debt is almost 13 trillion as of April this year.
Okay.
Almost 12.76 trillion to be exact. And this means that we have a higher interest expense budget. And when you have to pay our debts, then you reduce your fiscal space for social services, for infrastructure. the media today carried headlines about the secretary of the DSWD, Secretary Tulfo, saying that he will graduate. I don't know, I can't remember the number of families, but this will again. This is, I think, dictated more by the difficulty in raising revenues. It's quite unfortunate because there's a lot of people who would need assistance from the government even at this time. So to me, I repeat, Pinky, the first issue that must be addressed is the economy. And here, a lot of challenges lie ahead of President Marcos. He must use his political capital and his 31 million 31 million votes that he received in order to institute reforms in our economy. Painful, but he has to raise taxes. Let's not kid ourselves.
He
We
needs,
need revenues, so we have to increase taxes in order that we can arrest the growing foreign debts that we
you're
have.
saying,
We
Senator,
must have
there's a lot to,
by the state.
Opo, there's a lot to talk
Yes.
about with what you said. No? First, you called it an economic crisis, but I want to go back to what you just said last. You said there must be increase in taxes. How do you mean by that? Do you mean that there should be new legislation to be able to increase revenue in the form of new taxes, or are you talking about a more efficient collection of taxes?
Well, we have, I've been long enough in government to know that every SONA, there is an assertion that we must improve our tax administration. Yes, but is easier said than done. We should look at really, and here again, painful as it is, the president must look at, and I'm sure his economic managers will advise him that we need new revenues. And therefore, there must be a review of the existing tax structure.
Okay. Economic crisis, very close to the heart of the Filipino people. Why? Because the latest Pulse Asia survey actually said that the number one concern of Filipinos right now is inflation. You are correct, Senator. It was at 6.1%, the last rate of inflation. And when we talk about inflation, obviously we talk about the rising prices of goods and services. So the increase in prices of basic commodities, maybe let's focus on that so it's close to the hearts of every one of us. Rice, it's a staple dito po sa ating bansa. We're looking at rice at about 37 pesos per kilo. Some are saying blame this to a number of factors and even the rice tariffication law. First off, what should be done to be able to make rice, again, a staple for us, more affordable to the Filipino people?
I'll be candid with you. I have no silver bullet to bring the prices of rice down. In the 18th Congress, we passed the law which would handled and revised the tariff rates of the rice and allowed the private sector to import rice, removing the NFA monopoly. And unfortunately, this has not resulted in resulted in the reduction of prices to the level that the consuming public would want. But maybe we should also address the production side. We keep on talking about tariff, but I do not know what is being done to reduce the prices of the production cost of our farmers. That is why it has not gone down as it should. But that doesn't mean that we should stop at this. Prices of pork the prices of chicken, Pinky. I think Filipinos today pay twice as much as the Thais would pay for chicken and for pork. This is a very difficult situation that we are in, and that is why the president has assembled a good economic team. They should be able to provide the solutions. But what is needed from the president is the political will, his willingness to use his political capital in order to institute the reforms that the economic
But
managers would
I
propose.
know it's a complex issue, but offhand, what are you thinking of possible solutions to be able to arrest the increase in the price of basic goods?
On the short term, Pinky, we should look at the tariff rates for pork, for chicken, and the basic commodities. We went through this debate when we crafted the rice tariffication law, uh, meaning instead of import quotas, we looked at the tariff rates. And this, to me, I favor this solution. Look at the tariff rates, and so that our local industries can be more competitive also. Right now, and I would emphasize, this is a short-term solution. The long term is that we should the cost of production of our basic commodities
Right.
must go down because we cannot keep on imposing tariff walls in order
Okay.
to provide or to arrest
I think
inflation
that's
or
also
lower.
the sentiment, Senator, of, for example, farmers. They say what's important is really to be able to have a lower cost of production and a higher yield. However, we need to take a very short break. We will be right back. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Pinky Webb. Our source today, former Senator Franklin Drilon. Again, I want to talk about that Pulse Asia survey. The first was inflation. That was most important to the Filipino people. And then the next 2, 3, 4 really were job creation, wage hike, and reducing poverty. And important to note that you already mentioned a while ago that 4.7 million families are actually living below the poverty line. That's about 24% of the population. And you went on to say about and talked about Secretary Tulfo and the 4-piece program wherein the list is being cleaned. It's being taken, they're cleaning it, auditing it, because apparently there are about 1.3 million who are not eligible anymore dito po sa 4-piece program. So let's talk about job generation first and foremost. How can this be addressed? Unemployment rate was at about almost 3 million.
Yeah, job generation can be addressed effectively if we improve our economy. There is no other way to look at it. If you we have to look at the private sector to be the source of jobs. The government cannot be the source of jobs. We already are looking at a very large bureaucracy, over 2 billion. That is why there are moves on right-sizing the bureaucracy. Therefore, you have to rely on the private sector to generate jobs. And here, we have during the time there was in the Senate, I authored and pushed for the reform bills that will perk up the economy, as in the Public Service Act, the Retail Trade Rationalization Law, the Corporation Code. All of these we pushed and authored in order that we can encourage private sector to invest. I support the proposition of the administration to highlight the public-private sector partnerships in funding infrastructure, because this government has no other choice. The fiscal space is very small because of the very high debt that we have, 12.7 trillion. That will eat up a lot of our resources because of the higher interest rates and the debt burden. That will affect our ability to address the infrastructure program. And therefore, I endorse and I support the proposition for a public-private partnership. I repeat, Pinky, the job generation, the major portion of this is in the private sector. And therefore, we must encourage the private sector to invest by better investment environment. We reviewed the tax structure, the income tax of the private sector, and I hope that and today we are competitive with the rest of the ASEAN countries in terms of the corporate income taxes. The infrastructure is something that we still pale in comparison with our neighboring countries, and therefore we must invest in infrastructure. And here, because of the tight fiscal situation that we have, I would repeat, I support the proposition of public-private sector partnership in infrastructure
And
to generate
more jobs. And possibly also, definitely, sir, you talked about infrastructure as a last question. The Build program of the former administration, looking into it now, there were apparently 3 railway projects, yung pong Bicol, the Subic-Clark Railway, and the Mindanao Railway. Apparently, should government pursue, renegotiate these loans with China, because it was reported that hindi po ito natuloy because of supposedly technical issues, and looking at the interest rate, medyo parang mataas ho ata at 3%, and you have other countries such as Japan who can offer interest rates on loans at a much smaller percentage rate.
The previous administration relied on China, relied too much on China, on everything. It was a deliberate pivot to China in terms of building relationships. And part of this was the hope that China will provide us with the loans to push the build program of the past administration. However, the data will show a very negligible ODA loans from China. Japan had the most substantial in terms of official development assistance loans, with the interest rates which are far favorable to the government if you compare it to the Chinese loans. The Chinese loans are charging us 3%. Can you imagine that? The Korean Exim Bank even has lower rates. Pinky, I'm talking from experience. During the time of President Pinoy, I led the push to fund the Halaur Dam from the Korean Exim Bank. We needed $200 million US dollars. The dam cost 11 billion, and we were able to secure from Korean Exim Bank a $208 million loan at 1/3 of 1% as interest rate, or even 1/10 of 1%, as compared to 3% from China.
1/10 of 1%.
And Japan also.
So that's what,
So
0.1.
I support the economic teams. Secretary Rodriguez was correct. Given this very high interest rates, we cannot afford Chinese loans.
All right. It was good speaking to you, Senator Franklin Drilon. Thank you for your time, and take care of yourself.
Thank you very much for having me this morning.
And coming up, are we nearing the end of the pandemic? Okta Research Fellow Guido David joins us after the break. Please stay tuned.